Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This video is about drugs. This is a video for basic drug education. If you're the parent of an adolescent who's been trying drugs or you're worried they have been, or if you're an adolescent yourself who's been contemplating using drugs and you want to know or you need to know a basic overview of what's where are the pitfalls, where are the risks, what are the benefits of certain drugs, basic overview like that. So this video is for you. If you'd like to get weekly mental health videos, subscribe below and leave me a comment. Let me know what kind of questions you guys want answered, and I'll do a Q&A in one of the next upcoming videos. So first, we're going to have story time. When I was in my master's degree program at Pepperdine, for the last year of being in school, we're required to see clients. So I started working at South Bay Human Services in Torrance. I still remember my very first client was actually a group. It was Saturday morning group, and there was about 18 people in it. They had all been convicted of some drug or alcohol offense and were court ordered to come to therapy. So I remember sitting there thinking, listening to them talk, it was the strangest thing because they had no idea it was my first session as a therapist ever. And they gave me so much authority. I thought it was the weirdest thing. And I remember walking out of it saying to the director, I have no idea what they were talking about. That was like a completely different language to me. I don't understand the drugs. I don't understand the street lingo. I don't understand what they're trying to do to get away from the cops. I felt completely inadequate and I was sure I should not be there. And the director was like, no, it's no big deal. Like, don't worry about it. They will teach you. They don't mind teaching somebody exactly what their worlds are like. They'll kind of like it. So I kept going week after week, and she was absolutely right. It was not an issue. I just asked questions when I didn't understand, and they had no problem to explain to me what the different drugs were, what the issues with the cops were, kind of their friends, their external environments, their internal environments, all of it. They had no problem to teach me. Over the next year, they really taught me a lot. I went from innocent Midwestern girl who knew nothing about drugs and really nothing about super intense trauma to someone who weekly lived it and felt it with these people who had been through the most outrageous atrocities. I took multiple classes on addiction, but I didn't learn about drugs from a PowerPoint. I learned about drugs from a swollen bicep that one of my clients showed me that was huge. It was like twice the normal size, and it was completely covered black and blue. And he was like, I missed. And I was like, missed what? And he was like, I was shooting up a speedball. It's heroin and meth mixed. And I missed the vein. So now it went in and ruined my arm, kind of. And I was like, whoa, this is a completely different world than I've ever experienced. And he would tell me stories. It was a sentence stuck on repeat, whether it was group or individual. Oh yeah, so-and-so died last night. They took too much and we threw them in the bathtub, but it didn't work. They didn't wake up. And then they died. And even somebody from my group died. They were like, oh, the girl who used to sit over there, she died. I heard that she died 2 weeks ago. It was a really, really traumatic environment to be in and really crazy. Like I said, it took my view of reality and shattered it and rebuilt it in a different sense. Through weekly groups and individual sessions with these clients, I began to understand the details of drugs, also the lingo that they use. A pattern emerged that I could start to almost guess personality and trauma characteristics of each person based on what drug they were using. Someone using cocaine was trying to escape very different emotions than someone using codeine. I found that some meth users did not realize when they use meth and they go on a 10-day binge and they don't sleep, they use up all their good neurotransmitters, and then when they come down, they're suicidal because the neurotransmitters are gone, they've all been used. And so many of them really didn't even know that if they wait it out, the transmitters will come back. That's the suicidal feeling. But they would just use again and again because the addiction had such a strong grip on them. So the question is, why do you care? Telling your kids drugs are bad leaves them curious. You're safe to go into more detail and explain to them why drugs are bad and what certain drugs do. So the first category I'm going to talk about is downers. Downers slow down your central nervous system. I don't typically see depressed people using downers. Downers are the kind of thing people with anxiety or people with anger issues want to use. They want to be slowed down and a little bit numbed out. So the most common one is alcohol. Alcohol removes your ability to think rationally and it removes your inhibitions. Benzos take away your anxiety. They're typically drugs you get from the doctor for prescription, or you can get them made on the street as well. Your typical benzos would be Klonopin, Ativan. Xanax is the one that's really commonly used around where I'm practice. Kids use them in school to be funny. They use them at the parties to also be funny. But when somebody comes to me and they're addicted to Xanax, I want to know what they're angry about. Xanax works really well to wipe out the anger. Next, we have tranquilizers. Tranquilizers are like Valium. Valium slows down your heartbeat, and it can be really dangerous if you mix it with other downers. Opiates dull everything out. Opiates include things like morphine, codeine, methadone, etc. Heroin is one of the worst downers. We also have fentanyl at another level. Fentanyl is, I'm sure you've heard about it on the news. Fentanyl is killing people all across the country. Fentanyl is what they give you when you're dying to take away the pain. It's a really, really bad addiction. So we have fentanyl and heroin. Those are the strongest downers that you'll normally hear about. There is never a reason to try heroin or fentanyl. Those two are never ever used in a recreational setting. You'll find yourself living at home one day and living on Skid Row the next and doing anything you can possibly think of to get more because you just want more and the addiction grabs hold so strong. I've heard from clients that going through heroin withdrawal, I'm sure fentanyl is similar, is some of the worst pain you can ever feel. It feels like your bones are breaking on the inside. Not something you ever want to experience, not a drug you ever want to try. Next, we're going to talk about uppers. Uppers wake up your central nervous system and make you really excited, but they can also make you really paranoid and aware of your surroundings. Caffeine is the most common. Caffeine can help you focus, but it can also give you anxiety. Juuls and vapes are pretty looking little electronic cigarettes. They have the same nicotine as original cigarettes do. They're just better looking, so they're more addictive. Kids use them all the time in the bathrooms at school. They get suspended for these things. They get expelled for these things. The consequences are ginormous considering what it is. Basically, they look cool, but they're going to give you nasty wrinkled skin. You're going to get terrible lungs, and you'll waste all your money and eventually die from it. The thing about vapes is it's a good idea not to start something you don't want to have to stop. When I'm talking to parents and they ask what to do about their kids' vapes, quite honestly, there's not a whole lot you can do because they're so easy to get, they're so easy to hide from you, and they're so easy to smoke at school. The reality is parents have very little control over whether or not their kids are smoking vapes. This one realistically lies on the kid. It's up to them if they want to embark on this addiction and someday have to get off of it or not. It's kind of their problem. Next common one is Adderall. Adderall wakes up the part of your brain that calms down and narrows in your focus. So Adderall is abused all over college campuses, all over high school campuses, the less than college. If you have ADHD, it calms you down and it can be a lifesaver. If you don't have ADHD and you're using it, it can make you really hyper and tons of energy. It can get in the way of your sleep. It can get in the way of your mood and make you really angry and irritable. That's the most common thing that I see with my clients. Cocaine feels awesome for a few hours, and as long as you didn't do anything dumb or dangerous while you were on it and you got clean coke that was not mixed in with anything bad in it, you might be alright. Until about 2 days later when you get the cocaine blues. You'll go through a come down period of depression, which you don't feel good, but also is really tough, and you run into problems if you're supposed to get your responsibilities done at that time, like go to work, go to school, do your presentation, do your homework, etc. MDMA, Molly, and ecstasy feel amazing as well. Similar to coke, when you come down, you will feel miserably depressed and hate your life, and it might come along with a lot of anxiety and paranoia. You'll think, oh my God, I'm an awful friend. I've done all of these things wrong. It's a really, really unpleasant feeling. MDMA, Molly, and ecstasy feel amazing as well. Similar to cocaine, you will wake up in the morning and feel miserably depressed. That's only as long as you haven't done anything more harmful or dangerous while you were on it, and also if you we're taking clean drugs not mixed with anything worse in it. Meth, like heroin, there's never a good reason to try meth. I've had clients tell me meth makes them skinny, and I was like, I've never seen a pretty meth user. Why don't you Google and try to find one for me? Because it does not work. Meth will ruin your entire life, make you suicidally depressed, and eventually you'll die from it. All right, next category is hallucinogens. So first I'm going to talk about acid. Acid is one of those drugs that can either be super good and it can be an amazing experience, or it can be super bad and an awful experience that's traumatizing. If you take acid and it goes well, you can feel really connected to whatever's around you. You can feel like you had a almost religious-like experience and you've understood the world on a different plane. But if it goes bad, if you have a negative thought and you get stuck in a place of paranoia and fear, you can be stuck in it for 12 hours. It can be really traumatizing and super awful to be like that for so long. And that's if you find good acid. I know 2 people who took bad acid and ended up in the mental hospital, and they'll be there for the rest of their lives. It really, really like screwed up their entire brain. Like, they're done. Another example of hallucinogens is mushrooms. Mushrooms are a poisonous plant that you can eat, and it's like a sort of like a lesser effective acid. It doesn't last anywhere near as long, like 4 hours maybe. It can also go really well. You can feel more connected to nature, walk around outside. It can be, everything becomes very, very pretty. Same thing can happen as acid. You can go on a bad trip, get scared, feel uncomfortable, feel paranoid, and you can't get out of it until it wears off. So that's sort of a summary of the basic drugs. There are many, many more, but this is enough for a basic education. One thing I want to add now is a summary. So risks in adolescent language. First one, we have good quality drugs that are clean and more safe than bad drugs are really expensive. You'll start to do things you would not imagine to get more money to buy more drugs. Second thing, even if you think that they're really good quality, you can't be 100% certain that they're not mixed with anything else. Third thing, there will be a come down, depressed period where you'll feel like your life is terrible and everything feels awful. Fourth thing, you might do things you wish you wouldn't have done and get in a situation where you're in danger or you're in trouble. Fifth thing, you might feel paranoid or have a bad trip and you'll be stuck in it for hours. So overall, this is an overview of drugs. If you like this video, please subscribe below. Leave me a comment. Let me know what other questions you have about drugs. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I'd like to do a Q&A. So leave your questions. Let me know what you'd like me to answer. And I will continue uploading a video each week. Thanks. Bye.